Grand. So good afternoon, all. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm very, very happy to introduce multiple speakers for this afternoon's event. I'd like to introduce Chang and some students, Max and Katie, that are joining her to follow up on our flip presentation around how should marketing be taught in the age of agile marketing. So I'd like to hand over to you, Chang, to lead this discussion.
Thank you, Michael. It's our pleasure today to be here, and I'm really, really pleased that two of my students, Katie Saison and Max Faulkner, are joining me today. And I also have a guest speaker, Saif Al-Derzi, who is probably on his way or he's already in the room. So I may
joined.
Yes, he's here.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, hi, Saif. Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Yeah, obviously, when I'm sharing my screen, I'm unable to see who are there in this in this virtual online space with us. So it would be good to definitely, prompt me whether my screen is freezing or anything. Just let me know using your voices, please. And so today we're actually here. The open question we want to give to our audience is, how should marketing be taught in the age of agile marketing? And then the purpose of this discussion is really just open up the forum, and then we can bring all our perspectives onto the table and to discuss what could be the options for us, what exactly the preparations we have to do, and how should we prepare ourselves. So the end of this presentation, or this flipped presentation, the discussion may not offer a definite answers to all, but hopefully we can put our experiences together, put the jigsaws together, and then hopefully some of those inspiring ideas can be generated from today's discussion with the panelists. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my students, Katie and Max. Katie, Max, would you like to introduce yourselves to the audience?
Max can go first.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Max. I'm a University of Lincoln student. I did a BSc undergraduate in business psychology, and now I'm doing an MSc Masters in business management with a professional practice. So yeah, thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Max. Katie, would you like to tell the audience what do you study currently?
Currently I study MSc management, but at undergrad I did BA honours business and management with a professional practice.
Fantastic. And I know you have also another role within our school. So would you like to tell the audience what role do you have?
I'm currently the course representative for MSc management.
Yeah, and I know that you have worked very well as a liaison officer between the students and the program team. So thank you for that. Also today joining us is our guest speaker, Saif Al-Derzi. So Saif is a chief investment officer and a branding and marketing strategist from a local business. And at the age of 29, he built his multi-million property empire within Lincoln. So it's amazing achievement, business achievement that he has made within his profession. But at the same time, I also want to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to Saif, because he has given us all the wonderful support he could give as an employer, bringing his insightful knowledge about digital marketing to our module, the International Marketing Planning, which I'm leading on for our group of postgraduate students studying on various programs within Lincoln International Business School. So Saif, would you like to say hello to the audience and then give a little bit of your background to the audience today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, Chang. Hopefully you guys can hear me loud and clear. Big boots to fill after that introduction, but thanks for that, Chang. So I guess, my name's Saif Derzi. So I run multiple companies within property predominantly. So we're based out of Lincoln, but we cover sort of Lincolnshire, South Yorkshire, Nottinghamshire, those kinds of areas. So my main, hopefully the whole aim of today really is to be able to inspire you guys, spark an interest, get you thinking ahead. So when you do try and either apply for a job or start a business, you're actually thinking, you're putting yourself in the shoes of either the customers, if you're a business owner, or the employer, if you're going to be an employee, and understanding what they're looking for. Because the majority of the time that we see generally within businesses and within employees versus employers relationships, is they're just looking to basically tick all the boxes without actually understanding how they can actually try to add the significant value, as we say, to try and basically step up in the ranks as quickly as possible. And I know a lot of people are all interested in financial remuneration, which is the most important thing. And if you are looking to get that, it's all about understanding how can you better that business in order to try and climb through the ranks quicker. So yeah, for today, hopefully just to inspire you guys and obviously explain it from an employer's perspective and a small business owner's perspective as well.
Thank you, Saif. Wonderful introduction. Right, okay, so let's move on to have a little bit of introduction about our flipped presentation. And multiple times, I will be bringing our students' perspectives as well as Saif's perspectives as the local employer into our discussion. And in our today's discussion, please feel free to jump in, ask us any questions you may have gained or collected through watching the flipped presentation that my students as well as Saif has contributed. But at the same time, I think it would be good for us to engage in a kind of interactive conversation as well, because we may get some inspiring knowledge and insightful ideas coming from our live audience as well. Okay, so first, on the first slide, you can see a slightly depressing campus, and these actually photos were taken at the very beginning of the COVID when the lockdown was taking place. So I remember I took these photos. I think just after the lockdown was announced on campus. And obviously, we know COVID has thrown us into the deep whirl of these challenges and disruption. Education sector, like any other sectors, we have to adapt really agilely towards how we actually put the quality teaching and the learning in place, so that the students are not having the learning loss, rather the learning gain from it. So that obviously reflection today, we're going to use the marketing modules as specific examples, and it would be hopefully open up some really interesting discussions among all of us. Okay, so on this slide, I don't know whether Katie and Max, you would like to say something about your experience in brief during the COVID, during your learning journey within this really challenging time.
Yeah, sure. I can go first. So
Okay.
unprecedented times call for unprecedented solutions, and everything went online. And for me, who had actually got COVID, it didn't actually change much besides my ability to maintain my virtual presence and join all lectures and seminars. So that made it quite difficult, but at the same time, everyone was in the same boat with everything being virtual, so it wasn't too demanding or difficult. So yeah, Katie?
Me personally, I say I relied a lot on face-to-face interactions with teaching staff, so it became a lot more difficult for me because I'd have meetings with different tutors a fair bit. But overall, it's been okay.
Thank you both. And I know, as a matter of fact, because obviously our students lose opportunities to go on to field trips, going to attend the physical conferences, and then the way that we can engage with our external stakeholders, the employers would have to go through the virtual online platform. So that's why Saif actually kindly agreed to meet with our students. And then during COVID, in one of our online sessions, Saif has given us a really nice workshop talking about his business. So Saif, probably you could give us a very brief overview about your business, how it survived in COVID, and also what exactly the impact of that you have brought into our online virtual classroom lectures. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to be talking a bit about finance and the wider economy slightly, because it does always touch up on this subject, and COVID is a big thing as well within that. So specifically in terms of when we talk about the logistical issues that we've had, so we were quite set up for remote working before COVID even happened. And when I started out my business, I always set out with the business in mind that I wanted to create a business that allowed me sort of the freedom to work from wherever I want. So I work much harder than when I was working within my job, much harder, much longer hours, but I can decide to work from wherever I want. So we always set up this model of, I wanted everything to be digital. I wanted everything to be able to, we have different project management tools, lots of different softwares that we can use to keep track of projects, to keep track of everything that's going on. WhatsApp's been a really good one. Asana's been a really, really good one as well. We use a bit of Trello sometimes. and then you've got Google Drives and all the rest of it, the cloud-based software. So generally, our infrastructure was set up for remote working, which is really, really good. But as a business, in terms of how things have been, obviously, as soon as March and April hit, it was it was quite worrying. No one really knew what was going on. I don't think anyone really knew what was going on, in all honesty, and everything was just, we had a lot of that, what we call uncertainty in the rest of the markets. And for us, it was all about what we call crisis management. So how can we manage a crisis? So we have to think ahead, what logistical issues are we going to have in terms of material shortages, labour, issues with the labour force, for example, working together. How are we going to make sure they're going to be all compliant and socially distancing while working? Luckily for us, the housing market continued to stay open, which was quite good. But as a result of that, we've actually seen quite a big boom in the industry. So within the property sector specifically, you've got obviously people wanting to move out and find more space. So people moving from apartments into sort of larger houses. And at the same time, on the flip side, you've got a lot of investors trying to beat inflation now, because inflation is really biting hard and interest rates are on the floor. So everyone's trying to basically look at protecting their money through property, but also at the same time looking at trying to multiply that. So from our perspective, in terms of the industry, it's actually done quite well, considering all the negativity that we've had in the world, and obviously all the deaths that we've had from COVID, which hasn't been easy. I've had 2 or 3 deaths in my family as well, so we can, we actually see the real nature of what this does. But generally speaking, that's sort of how we've seen things and how we've sort of accommodated as well.
Thank you, Saif. And I do remember that in that particular online virtual workshop that you ran for our students, you brought all of this overview from your business perspectives and then bring it right in front of the students. And our students also have asked you many questions that are critical to their understanding within the marketing specific contexts. And later on, I will bring Saif again onto this discussion by showing some of the slides that the students have interacted with him. And then from there, probably you can gain some, through this small window, you can gain some insightful knowledge about what's happened within our online lectures, online seminars, and workshops. Okay, right, I'm going to talk slightly about the next one. So what is blended learning? What exactly we have done within the blended learning? What actions we have taken to put learning, teaching, and assessment in the best, positive way to optimize our students' experience. And this is the time that I think we could actually pause for a moment just to check with our audience if there's any questions so far, just based on our experience during COVID, whether they want to ask us any questions.
So I'll give people a few minutes to jump into the chat if they want to raise any questions. We have just over 5 minutes to go on this discussion session, Chang, and I'd like to raise a question if I can. Okay. I think I'll begin with this, with directing it towards the students, but Saif, you're welcome to jump in as well. I'm wondering if, as an impact of the change to blended learning, that the digital skills that students have acquired over the last year are actually going to have a positive impact on their employability. The remote working approach that Saif mentioned. Do you think students, Katie and Max, you're actually more prepared to go into that kind of workplace?
Personally, I think there's been a lot we've gained from it. So one aspect is with assessments. We normally do presentations, so this has forced us to move them online, pre-recorded, and utilize the tools and learn about it a bit more. But there's that communication aspect missing from blended learning because you're not interacting with people. So it's digital based and remote, we do pretty well, I imagine, but face to face, maybe not so much.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I would also say that over COVID and lockdown, I think when people are left to their own devices, it gives more time to develop the skills they want to develop. So like Microsoft Office Specialist, you can do, and then you can do find out other digital skills like coding, and you can enhance your own abilities in your own time. And then with not actually traveling to and from university and all the stuff that incurs that, you have more time to do other things as well. So I think in the long run, it will have a beneficial impact. But right now, we may or may not be seeing it.
Definitely. Yeah. Saif, are you hopeful that your new graduate employees in the near future are going to come with more digital skills?
Yeah, I think we've seen COVID's really accelerated a lot of underlying factors that were already going to be happening, but rather than a 10-year time frame, it's going to be a 5 to 6 month time frame, maybe even a year's time frame. And the digitalization and globalization has been massive. So, you know, most of my team are worldwide. So my team is not even all in the UK. I'm dealing with people in the Philippines. I'm dealing with people within the Middle East. I'm dealing with people in Asia, for example. And they're all part of my team, but we can still communicate all together as if we're one team. And we've also got this concept of a digital office as well. So we run digital office days. And I think the future is really getting into sort of these virtual digital offices. So you might be in a virtual reality digital office rather than being in a physical office. I know a lot of business owners, I interact with a lot of business owners, and certainly from their perspective, they're all looking at how they can really become leaner, and they've realized how much money is being spent on various different things. For example, office space, lots of, you know, traveling, for example, petrol, diesel, etc. All of these, lots of these different things that have had a massive impact on cost as well, if that makes sense. So they're all trying to basically reduce cost as much as possible, and obviously digitalization is a big thing. So as an employee going into this, the biggest thing that you can do going into an employer is basically try and understand how can you reduce overhead to become more efficient through lots of digital technologies. Also, the blockchain technology, I think, is definitely the future, and I think there's a lot to like about that. So trying to get ahead is basically where the future is, I think.
I think that's a fantastic point. Chang, in our last couple of minutes, do you want to reflect on what out of this whole experience that you will be taking forward into the next year of teaching for marketing then?
Definitely. I think this year has given us a great opportunity to reflect, to examine, to evaluate what we have done and what strengths we have in terms of learning, teaching, assessments. And to be honest, it's not just on the marketing modules. Yes, we're today using marketing modules as the context to talk about it, but then it's widespread and it's a broader sense that I think the digital engagement is, has offered a great value of what we've gained in this challenging time. So what our audience can see on the screen, I would say, is really sums up certain actions that I will be putting in place in terms of, as a lecturer, these are the roles and responsibilities I would undertake to make sure that the students have this sense of belonging. This belonging is not just within the university that we create for them on the module, on the program. It is the extended sense of belonging that they will be able to collaboratively, cooperatively working with others. And then the way how they communicate, obviously marketing is a fantastic, obviously context. We are talking about the communication skills and the capacities, but the effective communication overall would support, some further engagement based on the students' experience as well as what employers will expect from them. The learning technology obviously are the tools and techniques that we have to take into serious consideration to optimize our students' experience. And it's not only just engaging with the current learning and development opportunities, but also try to create in the most innovative way, creating those new learning experience that we can give to the students. And clearly the learning is within the campus, on the online virtual spaces, but at the same time is beyond the university. So we need to synchronize our practice to reflect the industry and the sector's practice. And finally, I think the gain coming from each individual cases, whether they're students, whether they're academics, when we're looking at the curriculum design, looking at the opportunities that we can optimize to support students to achieve the learning gain in, those best learning moments. It will be something that I think will just keep our conversation going, and then we can obviously extract the most useful and the best practice to put in place to make changes happen. So these are my takeaway for next academic year, Michael.
I think that's a fantastic takeaway, and we are unfortunately out of time on this discussion session, but I find it very encouraging that we've had the student voice in here around digital skills, that we've had the employer voice around the impact of the way that the workplace has changed, and that we're reflecting that change in education as well. And I think it's interesting that you've touched upon some themes that have cropped up earlier on in today throughout the conference around motivating students, around digital engagement, what that really means, and how we encourage and incentivize students to have that responsibility for their learning and really get involved. So I really would like to say a huge thank you to the entire group of presenters for this, Max, Katie, Chang, and Saif. I really do appreciate your flip presentation and for leading this discussion. For those participants in the room that are part of the Microsoft Teams site for this conference event, we do have a dedicated discussion channel. So if you want to carry on this conversation and put in some thoughts into the discussion channel, please do. That means we can continue to get your input and carry on this conversation. So at that point, I think we'll draw this session to a close. Thank you very much to all of our presenters. Thank you very much for everybody that took the time to join us this afternoon. We really do appreciate it, and I hope that you have a fantastic afternoon.